YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here. We're at the Crack of Kraken? What? I didn't name this map. Creative Assembly did. If you ever wanted to see the Crack of a Kraken, then apparently that's it. So let's check out a battle. I had a couple of battles submitted to me that involved the Empire, and I kind of wanted to see what's going on with them post-patch. And here we're going to see General of the Empire riding around on his Griffin, 2 steam tanks, some handgunners, and then spread out all over the map is the rest of the Empire. Here in the woods, we've got 4 units of great swords who are clearly hiding from artillery, a Jade Wizard right on the side, and then no Empire troops over on this flank. They're going to be up against a Dawi opponent here. Looks like there's some miners in the back, some Dragonback Slayers, Giant Slayers, 2 of those, a Rune Lord, miners with blasting charges, including the Ekron miners, a Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, regular Dwarf Warrior, 2 cannons, a Thunderer, another Warrior on the flank, and a Thunderer and a Warrior on the flank here. General of the Empire is actually in a pretty risky position here. He really doesn't want to be here right now. Very gutsy of him to be landing amidst this. He's going to have to be very careful. Those cannons aren't turned on him because they're firing at the steam tanks. Still, in my opinion, pretty risky for him to make this landing. He should be able to get away from the Dawi, though. Steam tanks under some pretty heavy fire from the dwarf cannons. I would think in a standoff that the dwarf cannons would do pretty well here. But I could be wrong. That steam tank's doing some pretty decent damage. General of the Empire is going to get out of there. He'll be in good shape. So let's see what happens here. Yep, this steam tank's starting to feel the heat, but look at that, man. Steam tank destroyed a gun. They're causing decent damage here. The General of the Empire is just going to land on these dwarf cannons and take one out. So very gutsy play here from the Empire. Very gutsy. He's able to stay away from the dwarf here, and the Thunderers are a little slow to react. Here they're going to get a great volley, though. Steam tank's got a little bit of work done, and that Jade Wizard is continuing to heal this steam tank. So it puts the dwarfs in a bad position, as they are not able to heal themselves. That General of the Empire, though, is taking a beating. He's going to have to retreat to the help of his Jade Wizard, and the cannons now targeting that General. But if the cannons are targeting the General, that means the steam tanks could potentially be winning the artillery fight. Let's see whether or not that pays off. Killing the General would certainly be a victory of sorts, but I'm not sure it generates an entire victory for the Dawi here. Now it looks like the steam tanks are the target. So the dwarf cannons can't seem to finish any one given target here. Here comes the General after being healed. He comes right back in for the Thunderers. You can see the steam tanks have taken quite a bit of healing too, but they can still be healed. Almost to full health with this one. Yeah, and the steam tank downs one of the dwarven cannons here, so the dwarves are going to lose the artillery duel. These handgunners are actually going to back off, and they probably should, because there's 2 Thunderers. No reason to get too hasty there. This should force the dwarf to attack. And here out of the woods comes a Zentler's Reichsguard and finds the Dawi Thunderers. This will be a Grudgeon for sure. It comes a Rune of Wrath and Ruin. But without some Slayers nearby, those Thunderers are going to be in for a savage beating. That General of the Empire is still just coming right at it here, doing his damage. So not quite destroyed are the Thunderers, but this handgun can now go mostly unopposed here. It's going to fall back from the Thunderers, as it should. Let the steam tanks do their work. The Empire player is picking apart the dwarf defense here. And that can be the danger of these defensive builds, is if you come expecting to be able to sit still and defend a cannon, and all of a sudden you lose that cannon, what's going to be your plan? How are you going to make up for it? And if you're playing as the dwarves online, you should get very used to this type of counterplay. That's why I don't pick the dwarves a lot online, because people love to hard counter you with chariots, with their own artillery and other stuff like that. So again, you got to be very careful playing the dwarves online and just expect people to kind of take cheesy armies against you because of your inability to threaten them with mobile forces. So that's really the big weakness of the dwarves, right, is their lack of mobile forces. Well, imagine all of a sudden in this battle if there would have been 4 or 5 gyrocopters with brimstone guns. All of a sudden, the tables would be flipped pretty hard on the Empire because the dwarves would be mobile, and they would be pretty effective at being mobile. With only one handgunner to stand in their way, you know, it definitely changes the game. So, but you know, of course, there's risk in doing that too. If the Empire came with enough skirmishers or other units, you know, it could get challenging. That's the thing, is if you don't get creative with your dwarf armies, it becomes very easy to counterplay you. Like I said, because the enemy will have zero respect for your defense because they know that you don't have the mobile units to back it up. So here the dwarf player gets engaged with some dwarf warriors. Some great swords are going to start wrecking them. The dwarf players spread out all over the battlefield. Some are chasing these handgunners and others moving towards the steam tanks. The steam tanks could easily stay in front of the dwarf units. Right now they're just battering away on the infantry, and in some places the dwarf player's not exactly even sure where to attack at this point. The formation's just been picked apart. Master Rune here is going to hurt, but I still don't think Giant Slayers are going to end up coming out too well against this unit. They don't have any armor. They will have to cut through the armor of the great swords, whereas the great swords will be cutting straight through dwarf flesh. Blasting charge is not going to do a whole lot here. Ekron Minor has a chance to do a little damage from back here, maybe. Yeah, they'll get in a nice little flank shot there. These great swords actually do end up dropping rather quickly, but that's probably more due to the presence of the Runesmith and the Rune Lord rather than the Giant Slayers. But I don't know, they actually got a pretty fair number of kills there. Never mind, those Giant Slayers racked it up. Jade Wizard gets wrecked by the Dragonback Slayer, so that's a huge setback to the Empire. These gunners are caught. Steam Tank has very little to worry about from the Slayers. Warriors of Dragonfire Pass will also cause little damage. So let's just see what happens over here. The Zentler's Reichsguard could get some pretty serious work done, and you've got the General of the Empire who can cause terror, since there's no Longbeards or immune to psychology type units here, which also means that great swords should be able to get some work done. Even if they don't win the battle single-handedly, if them and the Reichsguard can cause significant damage, the steam tanks will finish up the rest. Yeah, the Jade Wizard, even though, yeah, he wasn't on horseback, so he can't outrun these Slayers. So he's going down for sure. And you can see how bad the steam tank's owning these Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. And then these Dwarf Warriors will get wrecked trying to chase the guns. So the Dwarves are going to be running out of options. They'll win this fight over here, but somewhat pyrrhically against the Great Swords and the General of the Empire. And they may not even kill the General of the Empire out of all that. If they win this fight at all.
Yes, sir, quickly.
Based on what they have left here, they may not.
Take position.
There is Wrath and Ruin going on.
Take the ground.
Look at this Reichsguard lining up for it, as well as the General of the Empire.
Axes out.
The dwarves are about to take a solid hit here. That's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt. That's pretty much gonna be the end of the dwarf infantry here. Yeah, that's gonna hurt bad. The Runesmith gets terrified. That's interesting. I didn't know you could terrify a Runesmith. Sucks for the dwarves. So yeah, this is something you just gotta be careful of. Empire has a lot of specialty units. The dwarves in particular can be quite overcome by it if they're not well prepared. The sad thing for the dwarves here is, aren't they the ones that gave the Empire the steam tanks? So talk about a grudging, right? Talk about a grudging. These poor warriors of Dragonfire Pass, they may have survived dragons and great battles, but they're not going to survive these dwarf machines in the hands of men. Oh man, the steam tank is one cool unit. So the General of the Empire is going to have to watch out over here. What few units are left are a big threat to him. but it shouldn't prevent the Empire from winning this battle pretty decisively here. The dwarf doesn't have a whole heck of a lot left. And I believe that his heroes will fall victim to the armor-piercing attacks of the steam tank. You've also got a Reichsguard, the regrouped Empire guns, so the dwarf player is in some pretty deep trouble. Steam tanks are out of ammunition, but I thought they were out of ammunition. They're still firing that steam gun. There comes the General of the Empire. Gonna lead a double attack here. Master Rune of Negation in though, so it won't be a ton of damage. Hammer of Karak used here, which is taking away melee attack and weapon damage. It's a nice ability for the Dawi to slow down an enemy beating. That's all this is going to do, is just slow down the beating. It's not going to stop it. Will not stop it. Even just ganging up on this dwarf lord with the Reichsguard is more than likely going to be enough to take that fight.
Quickly!
It looks like that's actually the end of the battle. That's kind of strange there. There it goes. It was like hung up there for a second, so the dwarf player admits defeat. That was really weird. Hero of Rome comes out with a solid victory there over the dwarves. So again, I think as your point is the dwarves, don't get over invested into your protection. Let's check out another replay that Hero of Rome sent us here, which is supposed to be Lewin versus Volkmar. Should be interesting. I'd like to see how the Empire stacks up here. It looks like Hero of Rome basically conceding the infantry fight to the Empire, which is smart because you're not going to win it. Great swords are a superior unit to the foot squires, and foot squires could also be kind of worn down by a significant number of state troops as well. They're not very good infantry. Empire does have some pistoliers, which is an odd choice versus Bretonnia because they're not armor piercing and they're relatively short range. But basically we've got peasants and men-at-arms with a few battle pilgrims here, the Regiment of Renown battle pilgrims, which have their pretty huge magical attack and pretty solid weapon strength here too. These guys are going to do some damage. They got Frenzy. Got a Damsel, Lure of Heavens here, supporting Lewin. Empire player is going to sit back with the Hammer of Witches. Not a bad choice versus Bretonnia, and you can see why it's not a bad choice there. The companions of Canels, or however you say that, yeah, help me with the pronunciation. Anyway, these guys took a savage hit there, those Questing Knights. Questing Knights a very cool unit. You don't see them used a ton because they kind of have a niche role against armored infantry, but yeah. Wow, that damsel. She is getting slain by a Hellblaster volley gun. Which I didn't catch that initially. And in terms of the Empire troops, we've got a couple of great swords, but they're shielded by spearmen. And so the Empire's got an excellent defensive position here that is well guarded. It's a bit campy. Bit campy for sure, but it is well guarded. Got a gunner in the back. And then Volkmar leading up the front. Here's a Silver Bullets sitting out in front of the lines. And then a Light Wizard with the net savagely pinning down the damsel, causing her to rout. Let's see if Bretonnia can do this. These peasants are getting slaughtered by the volley gun, but the volley gun really needs to be targeting this Regiment of Renown unit, if anything, or another high-value unit. Definitely not peasants. Let the pistoliers do some of that work. That volley gun is just gruesome, but it's targeting the wrong unit. The Holy Wardens would be a much better target there, or something like these Grail Knights. Nonetheless, the volley gun is getting some serious work done. These gunners Have nice position up here on the hill, too. They should be able to fire over their own troops. A lot of the peasant line is routed. The men-at-arms probably don't have much of a prayer of breaking through that front line for the Empire, especially with Volkmar there. But you've got Lewin here who's going to dive in on the handgunners. Spearmen are going to be slow to cause him a ton of damage. It's really, yeah, whether the support units like the handgunners can do it. Here we've got a mounted yeoman making its way around the spearmen. That's a nice call. Should be able to get into the back of the fight. The question is whether the Bretonnian forces can hold long enough to let the rear guard get the attack. Here comes a Grail Knight trying to punch through the spearmen. The spearmen actually hold the line marvelously because they're braced. They're going to take a lot of damage, but they didn't get knocked down real badly. The net here used on the mounted yeoman, but it's a little bit late here. The silver gunners kind of get caught, though here comes Volkmar. Manages to terrify that unit. Comes the Grail Knights. Mounted yeoman, Lewin, they are going to definitely be causing some damage back here.
Quick now! God help us!
Volkmar is having his way with some of these infantry. The Holy Wardens are going to be the only ones who stay in the fight. The Hammer of Witches somehow got mismicroed into the middle of this fight, so it's going to be wasted, actually, after having done some great damage early on. The Bretonnian peasant bowmen are sitting back, starting to slaughter the handguns, which is a good choice. That volley gun, it has not been mismicroed. It has racked up 126 kills, but if this spearman gives way, then Bretonnia has the break it needs here. It should be able to bypass. The questing knights actually are going to get pulled back rather than move forward. These men-at-arms are trying to chase that great sword. Valiant fight by Bretonnia here. More men-at-arms, and the king and Grail Knights. Pistoliers are gone. These Empire Spearmen won't be the best answer to the men-at-arms. And regrouping Bretonnian units coming back for seconds here. The Hammer of Witches trying to reposition and get some work done, and even a shot or two with this thing can cause some really solid damage. Look at that. Just racked up another 10 or 11 kills just from that volley. Volkmar now under fire from all the peasant bowmen. They are certainly going to be under threat from him. If he can get to them, if they can sit back and fire like this, then he's going to be in rough shape because he's got these cavalry chasing him. So Volkmar could be in big trouble here, whereas Lewin is owning. And the Empire defensive position is actually completely broken at this point. And the Empire does have the better infantry, but now Bretonnia, who started off at a huge deficit from a range standpoint, now holds the ranged advantage. And they are pushing it. And the Theogenist is feeling the heat. The Hellblaster volley gun, after 127 dead peasants, was now silenced by the king, who would tolerate no more. Here's the Bretonnian troops chasing down the state troops of the Empire. Theogenist trying to smash through as many of the Bretonnian troops as he can, but a lot of the units left now are not the type of unit that, that Volkmar really wants to be fighting. There is some regrouped Grail Knights back here for Bretonnia as well. Still a fairly balanced match according to the power bar, but I think this is going to be safely in the hands of Bretonnia. Sword of Couronne here. Here comes all the bombardments. Battle prayer, damage resistance for the Empire. There's great swords here. Lewin's going to be in a little bit of trouble. He's definitely extended behind enemy lines here. There's armor-piercing great swords, anti-large spears. Volkmar, though, not going to be great versus a large target like Lewin, who does manage to push his way out of that fight. Great swords are going to get hit by Grail Knights, and they are going to drop, so the archers now looking to go unchallenged. The volley gun is back up and firing, though. And it picked up a few more kills, but it's now in range of the archers. So the volley gun that was raining so much death and destruction, now going to be rained on itself. Definitely a cool unit. I think the volley gun took some buffs in the last patch too. Those Bretonnian archers, the peasant bowmen, can end up being fairly clutch here.
Kill 'em all! The lady wills it!
It's gonna end up being a pretty close fight here in the end, but looks like it's gonna swing for Bretonnia pretty solidly here. With those bowmen and these few Grail Knights, Lewin left. Yeah, there's not much the Empire can do about this. And we've got more yeomen, men-at-arms, companions coming back. It's really just a matter of cutting down Volkmar, who actually ends up putting up a pretty decent fight here. Regrouped handgunners, they're going to get taken out by the archers. So again, the inability to silence the archers here for the Empire proved to kind of be their undoing. Taking out the archers seems like that would have been the key. There goes the silver bullets. And really should just be a matter of time. Volkmar is unbreakable in morale, but not in health. He's breakable. See, he's under a lot of fire from the bowmen. Lewin can just kind of keep his distance, let the archers do their work, and then come in and finish it up. No reason to get too hasty and potentially get yourself killed. That's what he's going to do. He's going to let the archers do their damage. So he's going to dive bomb using the Sword of Coron. And at that point, should be able to mop up. Man, Volkmar heals pretty quickly. Pretty impressive. Look at him. Fighting off the damage. Well, let's watch it finish up. Fun replays from Hero of Rome. Appreciate him submitting it. Yeah, I think the first one's a good example of when you're playing Dawi, like I said, expect someone to counterplay you hard. And then this one kind of proves that even though someone gets the superior defensive position, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win. You saw the determined fight that he put up and did his best to just break that defensive formation from every single angle that he could. And it was close, it was painful, but he was able to get the job done. So, fun stuff. I kind of think this one's a good example of how artillery and stuff in this game is quite good, as are certain ranged units. But I like the balance that flyers and other stuff bring in, because it makes those defensive geometries still vulnerable, right? It was strong. Konungsmigger, or whatever his name is here, he got some serious work done with it, but it wasn't impenetrable because Lewin's able to get behind it, right? He's not able to do it damage free, but he can get behind it. He can start causing the damage, cause the disruption that eventually allowed the cavalry and other units to get in there and break it up. So that's one of the reasons why I like Warhammer. It seems to continue to add to the strategy that can be used in Total War. So those defensive strategies that were extremely annoying back in the day when you had no way to break in, all of a sudden become not so impenetrable. They are still viable if used properly, but not impenetrable. Hope you all enjoyed that one. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I will see you all soon with some more Total War Warhammer 2 action.